Hey everybody, welcome back to week 3 edition of FSI DFS Fantasy NFL Picks. I'm host Mike Brewer 31. Pretty good week last week, and hopefully we'll keep it going this week. The name of the game this week is actually weather. With the hurricane coming up or a tropical storm just bringing rain and wind and stuff on the East Coast, a lot of these games could get pretty messy. So we'll have to incorporate that in. So the first game, it's going to be kind of windy, but shouldn't be too rainy, is going to be the Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns. 38.5 total. Cleveland's favored by 3.5 here. So starting with the Titans side of it, Tannehill's no. He's a game manager. He's not a great quarterback. I don't see much fantasy upside with him. Derrick Henry, I usually have him on my fade list unless he's playing on like FanDuel. He does have the 2 touchdown upside and can go off, but Cleveland's defense has been stout and really has actually shut down running backs pretty well this season. So not super interested there. Hopkins, he keeps on showing up in the injury report. I think he's okay. Just had something nagging, but definitely, probably the one piece of this team that I look at as one-off. None of the other wide receivers really interest me here. It's such a low total and a cone quo. Thought he'd be decent last week. He's a cheaper tight end, but just really didn't get there. I think there's other better, cheaper options, but I think he's still in play in the cheap range this week. Cleveland side of the ball, so sad. Nick Chubb, bad knee injury on Monday Night Football. I'm sure you all heard about it by now. So, what do they do going forward? They Jerome Ford came in and was the guy. Kareem Hunt was re-signed by the team. They let him go last year. He ended up in Kansas City for a while and actually kept Ford over Hunt. So I wonder how that's going to work out in the locker room. And neither one of these guys is Chubb. He was like the heart and soul of the team, really. Watson really hasn't been gotten it going in the passing game. So I don't know. This is definitely a bad situation for Cleveland here. So I think Ford is probably going to be the highest owned running back because the pricing came out before that Monday night game, and he's only 4.8 and he's a starting running back. And even though Hunt's in the equation here, I can't imagine that he's going to have a huge share there. So Ford should get the lion's share of the carries. But Kelly last week from San Diego also was in a great situation with Eckler out. Actually looked really good in the first week and got completely shut down by this Titans defense. It's a funnel defense. They're there to stop the run. They want you to pass the ball and try to beat them. That way they're going to take the run away from you. So I don't know. I know he's cheap. I understand that he really doesn't do much to need to make his 2x value, but I see him only maybe in 10 to 12 points here. So I don't know. I might have to eat the chalk in some lineups because the next game we're going to talk about, you're going to want so many pieces of it. And definitely a starting running back at 48 makes sense in cash. Just to plug him in is kind of a free square, but I just hate the matchup. And if there's other options, I might pursue it. But I think Ford's going to be the highest owned player on the slate potentially, especially at the running back position. So what do we else have? What else do we have? Amari Cooper was banged up, not supposed to play. When out there, was not 100%, but still out there, was still running routes. It still seemed to be the number one target. So I think he's definitely in play at 5.7, not bad in mid-range for wide receivers. If he doesn't play Elijah Moore, he was had a lot of ownership because I don't think people knew Cooper was going to play until really close to the game. And I think he was pretty much the chalk play to replace him. But Elijah Moore, even when he was on the Jets and here on Cleveland, just really hasn't risen to the occasion too much. So I don't expect double-digit score out of him at all at any point either. And then Njoku, the tight end, he had a great seasons when Baker Mayfield was there, but Watson hasn't used them the same. So I guess really don't want much from this game at all, except for maybe on FanDuel and some GPPs if I take Henry and the Titans defense, and I like the Cleveland defense too, and maybe paired with Ford. So I think that's really the only thing that I'm looking at in this game. Okay, so this next game is Fantasy Gold. It is Christmas for us. It is a 54.5 total. It's a 1.5 point spread favoring Minnesota. Chargers, Minnesota, neither one of them play great pass defense, and you have some really good passing offenses here. So on the Chargers side of it, Justin Herbert or Kirk Cousins on the other side, I think are going to be the top two quarterbacks in cash. Joshua Kelly, people might be off him after last week. He's still only 5'4", so he's reasonably priced and cheap. He's the one that I'm going to lock in as my cheap running back. He's only $600 more, and he's in a great smash spot because Minnesota has not been able to stop the run, and he can catch some balls out of the backfield. So I think he's in an awesome position here to put up 15 to 20 points. So definitely like him in this spot here. Wide receivers, Allen, if you can get to him to pair with Herbert, is great. Mike Williams is good too. Jesse Palmer finally caught a touchdown, but I mean, that's kind of a dart there. Or if the last piece into your stack, if you got like just a little over 3K left at 3.3. And then Everett, not super interested. Doesn't look like he's got a huge role in the passing game. I think it's more the wide receivers and the backs. So, but again, GPP plug in if you're doing the stack, and I honestly, I'd rather play Hawkinson on the other side of this if you're stacking the game as the tight end, because he's really the second wide receiver. So talking about Minnesota, you have Cousins here, and again, Cousins has had some good games, has had some bad games, but he's usually productive even in his bad games. Even if he throws 3 interceptions, he still might throw 4 touchdowns in the game too. So Justin Jefferson is just a target monster, just a beast out there. So definitely he and Hawkinson are the pieces that I like. Madison's really struggled to get going. Like the Chargers, this might be a good opportunity for him to go out there and be able to do a little bit better. They did sign Cam Akers, or traded for him from the Rams. So that means that there's a lot of pressure on him to, if he wants to stay the starter, he's got to like show him something. So maybe that's more incentive to figure it out in this game. But I definitely like Justin Jefferson. And if you want to take some other cheap pieces, Addison is probably my second favorite one. Osborne, like he filled in okay when Jefferson went down, and I think Thielen was out with an injury last season, and Osborne did what he needed to do when he moved up the depth chart. But then it seems like when he's not in that position, he's just kind of there. So I think Addison's definitely the one that I would favor over Jefferson if you're triple stacking this. But most people, I think, will just overstack it with Jefferson and Hawkinson. And again, I think most people's cash builds are going to be Herbert or Cousins. Probably most of them will lean Cousins because you're saving $600 there. And then Kelly is running back, Allen or Williams, whatever you can get in, Jefferson there, and Hawkinson if you can, and then just throw in cheap pieces to make it work. So I think that's going to be a lot of cash builds just with the total, and that this game isn't affected by weather. Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions. It's probably my second favorite one, just scoring wise on the slate, although I wish the teams were a little bit more balanced. 46.5 total here. Detroit's favored by 3 at home. Atlanta side, Ritter, he threw the ball a little bit more. He kind of had to last game. So, and we were really kind of worried that this just wasn't going to be a passing offense. I still don't think that's the primary. I think that they have designed running plays for him. I think Bijan Robinson is really exceeding my expectation. He's put up over 20 DK points his first 2 starts. A little bit too expensive on FanDuel for me, but he's definitely in the conversation here with the consistency that we've seen. And Algier was there last game also, and still getting touches. He didn't put up anywhere near the points that he put up in week 1. And that's why we need like probably 3 or 4 weeks of data to see if things are not. But I still think he's like somebody that you can potentially play in a GPP. And who knows, maybe he gets 2 touchdowns again and is a goal line back, and Bijan Robinson, is the guy that leads them down the field, and then when they get close to the goal line, they throw Alger or Ritter with some design runs. Drake London, again, I just really don't like the passing game here. There's nobody else really here that any of the other wide receivers that I'm crazy about. Kyle Pitts is a very talented tight end that just drops the ball a lot and just really isn't used as a option in this offense. And maybe it's because of the drops. I don't know, but I just hesitate to play him. The Lions side of the ball, Jared Goff is definitely in play, probably more in GPPs. I don't know if I play him in cash, but GPP definitely if you're stacking up this game, like him. Gibbs with Montgomery has the hamstring injury, so he is doubtful. Probably is not going to play. And I think it's a mistake if you think that Gibbs is just going to go in and be the bell cow and just, they're going to feed him the ball and he's just going to get all the carries and stuff, because just look how Dan Campbell runs his offense. Because before, like when you have Swift here, like he had the Gibbs role, like he never, even with injuries, was a feature back. So don't be surprised if Craig Reynolds at 4-4 gets like a lot of the carries out of nowhere, and then Gibbs comes in on third down, and if they're behind, is like someone that they throw to, and they just kind of keep the roles the same. I just don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see like Gibbs going out there and being like the powerhouse back and then also the finesse back all in one. I think they're going to keep him as the pass catching guy and like just running some like reverses with him and just trying to use his speed to exploit the defense. The receiving core is a little banged up. Both St. Brown and Josh Reynolds had questionable tags, but it looks like both of them practice and are ready to play. St. Brown's dealing with turf toe, which is very painful, but like I just commend him for going out and pushing through it and actually continuing to be an amazing target for Goff, and just like the volumes there. So, and Reynolds, if one of them is out, then I don't know if I'd really play Marvin Jones. Like he's a little bit over the hill. There's gonna be a game where Marvin Jones is gonna catch 3 touchdowns and somebody's gonna be like, see, Mega, I told you, Marvin Jones, he's still a thing. But that's probably gonna be 1 out of 9 games. So I'm not gonna lose money in like 9 weeks just to capture it at one. So much better plays out there. Laporte is a solid tight end option too at 4K also. So definitely keep him in mind. And again, I said this is probably my second favorite game to stack. So I'm looking at that. I'm taking Goff, St. Brown's, and Bijan Robinson, and then maybe Laporta too to run it back with also, and then I'll fill in the rest of the line with team players from other teams. Next game is going to be one of the biggest weather games that we're going to have here. It's the Ravens and the Colts. They're on the East Coast, and the hurricane winds are going to be pretty crazy there. You could have gusts 20-25 miles per hour, and there's like a 60% chance of rain at the beginning of the game. It should taper off through the game, but the field should be wet. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be messy. Big thing with the Colts is that Richardson, their quarterback, is in concussion protocol, and he's going to be out for the game. So, just being banged up like so early in the season, they don't want a situation where, he goes out there and gets another one and then is lost for many. So they're going to make sure they take the time and bring him back when they can. I mean, they've invested a lot of money in him. So Gardner Minshew gets the start. So I believe like his magic happened at Jacksonville, and then I believe he was like Philly's backup too last year, but now he gets another opportunity. I think he'll get some ownership just because he's so cheap. He's a starting quarterback here. And everybody remember, like, he's got a stick with as much stash and stuff. And just like Fitzpatrick came in as a backup and would light things up, just never like a really great starter, but always was a great backup to come in and just capture some lightning in the bottle. So it's kind of like the Jeremy Lin effect, if you followed NBA basketball, where he just came in and came off the bench is all pretty much a walk-on. I know they don't have walk-ons in the NBA, but as a fringe player, and just like went nuclear in a couple games and like just started a craze, and like I just think Gardner Minshew is just like one of those players that does it. Like Doug Flutie used to be like that back in the day, like a backup that he'd get in a game and just do some crazy things and play with reckless abandon and like get some results and just became legendary. So Minshew, not just in this matchup against this Ravens defense, and not the Ravens defense of the past. There's a lot of injuries there. Hopefully if they all come together, like the Ravens have like they've drafted defensively the last couple of years, and if they start to get healthy, they should be able to maybe start to get back to the old Ravens defense that we knew and loved and was just like stout and so hard to get anything against. But we're not there yet. So can Minshew have a decent game? That's fine. But I really like Zach Moss here because I think without having Richardson as a rushing, and he had a lot of looked healthy when he came back last week, and they gave him a lot of opportunities. He had a lot of attempts. I think he almost had 100 yards. So at 5.5, I think he's definitely in play, even in cash. Receiver wise, Pittman, I think, is probably going to be the biggest target for Minshew here. Pierce and Downs are there, but I think like Downs and Pierce had like better rapport with Richardson just from camp and stuff. But again, they're cheap. They're 3.5 and 3.4. So if for some reason you're playing Minshew, then definitely take one of them with Pittman. And then Kyle Granson. I don't know. I usually like when you have a backup quarterback playing tight ends because it just screams safety for you. But then Mo Ali Cox is still on the team. Like could he come out there in the red zone and poach a touchdown? I don't know. It's just hard. But I really don't like a lot in this game. If you are playing pieces here, Pittman or Moss, I think are my favorite from the Indianapolis side. The Baltimore Ravens side, Lamar Jackson, I think, is going to be a lot of people as a one-off if they're not playing either Cousins or Herbert is going to be their quarterback in cash. And I get it. I understand it. There's rushing upside here. Obviously, they lost Dobbins for the season. Justice Hill is going to be out, so that just leaves Gus Edwards. They signed Melvin Gordon, but he's kind of over the hill, and they brought back Cameron Drake, who was here last year, but I don't even know if he's going to be activated for the game or not. And just in the miserable conditions, like the ball just might stay in Jackson's hand, and he could probably be the goal line back also. So I just think there's a lot of upside for him, and he just hasn't super produced early in the season. So, but his pricing's still up there in the top echelon at 7.7. Gus Edwards, GPP only. I really think that he's going to get some run, but I don't know how they're going to use the rest of these running backs. Whoever's active there, and Lamar Jackson, I think definitely can use his feet. I don't know how much passing is going to happen, so I don't think this is the week to play Flower. Aguilar out of nowhere caught a touchdown last week. Bateman's definitely a deep threat, and then Duvernay's out there also. But I think Flowers is definitely the preferred target. But I think if I'm doing anything here, I just take Lamar Jackson and pair him with Mark Andrews. Like he's having definitely a good season as he starts to get healthy again. And I think that he's definitely someone that's going to probably be one of the top tight ends this season. So he and Jackson, I think, are the safest pairings. I don't think maybe run it back with Pittman on the other side. I don't have this game up here because I just don't like it as a stack. But and then the Ravens defense, I think definitely against Minshew would be in play also. So, and if you do that and throw in Gus Edwards, I get it. But again, I think Lamar's probably going to have most of the carries. But if you think they get ahead and then just hand it off to Gus the Bus Edwards and he just keeps on pounding, and the yards just keep ticking up for you and running your score up, then that's definitely helpful. Saints and Packers here. Weather in New Orleans, actually it's in Green Bay, winds 10 miles per hour, gusts 15 to 20, chance of rain. So not as messy as some of the other ones, but the New Orleans side of it, I like the total here. It's like my fifth favorite, 142, but it's a close game at 1.5. There's some games that have higher totals here, but they're just going to be blowouts. So I just, there's either nobody to run it back for, like in the Chiefs and Bears game, or I don't even know if they're going to be able to play like all four quarters if they're going to rest in the third quarter. So we'll have to keep that in mind. But on the New Orleans side of it, Carr's definitely in play here. I definitely like the passing game and Olave and Thomas. Olave is definitely the deep threat and the most explosive one, but Thomas has definitely been getting his a lot of targets too and catching a lot of balls. So he's only 5'3", so it's very seems kind of underpriced here for someone that could definitely get 10 to 13 or 14 DK points. And even Shareed, he had a kind of a down game last, but he looked really good in week 1. So there's somebody else there as a cheap target. So they're good. Juwan Johnson, the tight end, is always in play also. And then Taysom Hill is such a wild card. You never know what he's going to do. Is he going to come in and play quarterback on some downs, which he did? Is he going to be the goal line back? Are they going to run some gadget plays for him? So I always throw him in at least like one of my wilder lineups just in case he does something crazy. Now, that's the passing game. The running back situation, you had Williams go out with a hamstring, and he's on the IL now. So he's gone. Kamara's still suspended. Tony Jones came in. I think he ended up with like 2 touchdowns, but it was just in the right place at the right time for those drives. And I just don't think he's like a super dominant back. But I don't know how they're going to do this. But they have Kendre Miller, who's coming back. He hurt his hamstring, so he's been out a couple weeks, but he's fully healthy. He's been great in practice. He looks explosive. I believe he went to TCU last year and had a really good career there. So this is a very talented young running back, and if given the opportunity at 4-3, that he's somebody that could potentially be in much better position if he's going to get all the carries than Jerome Ford, and he's even a little bit cheaper too. So again, I'm trying to find every way that I can avoid playing Ford, and I think Kendre Miller is definitely someone that I feel I can take a chance on. You can run on Green Bay. It looks like he's going to be a feature, and just the way that they've treated Tony Jones, I just don't think that he's the answer. I think they'll give Miller the opportunity early, and if he succeeds, I think they'll continue to go to him. But it just seemed like they just kept on passing the ball and really didn't even make running a priority when they lost Williams in the last game until they got down close to the goal line, and Jones was able to, I believe he had 2 touchdowns last week to run them in. Yeah, so he had 15.4 DK points, and he had 34 yards on 12 attempts and 2 touchdowns. So that's really, if he doesn't get those touchdowns, then it's really, he's not paying off much at all. On the Packers side of it, this is just a mess. Aaron Jones has practiced this week, but we don't know if he's going to play. If he does play, is he going to be limited? If he's there, that means that A.J. Dillon, even though A.J. Dillon didn't rise up to the occasion and really dominate, with Aaron Jones out of the equation. So, and New Orleans actually has had a decent run defense. So I don't think I'm going to touch that situation. The receiver situation. Well, Jordan Love. GPPs, I'm fine playing him. Watson, is he going to be back? He's been practicing, but we don't know if he's 100%. He might be limited. He's so questionable. Nobody said that. There's no place where the coach said, he'll definitely play. It's like 90 minutes before the game, we'll know what's going to happen. So that's never a great sign. Dubes on the other side just doesn't seem like the priority. I talked about Jordan Reed on the video, and I actually had him in my cash core, and he came through and caught, I think he had 2 touchdowns there. He was decent, and one of them was like a gadget play on a run, but they're definitely a little bit of spark here, a little bit of talent, and it seemed that they like, and obviously Jordan Love is throwing him the ball. So let me just look at, so he had 4 receptions for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns on 8 targets. So again, it's a risky play, but in the punt category, if Watson's out and if Jones is out, then he's definitely somebody to look at. And Musgrave, the tight end, definitely has a good relationship with Love and gets targets. And at 3-3, I think in cheap range, he's going to continue to be in play. Okay, probably the lowest total on the slate, because this game is going to be an absolute downpour mess. This is the heart of the hurricane hurting football game. It's going to be the Patriots and the Jets as a 36.5 total. So it's going to be simple here. Not playing Mac Jones. Ramon Stevenson is probably going to be the answer, because if this game is this much of a mess, I don't trust any of these Patriot wide receivers. Parker's been banged up, Bourne, Smith-Schuster. Nobody is like really stepping up and doing anything. Hunter Henry has been the answer, so he might be in play, but I think it's Stevenson and the Patriots defense if I'm touching this game at all. On the Jets side of it, the same thing. I might take the Jets defense. They're relatively cheap, or cheaper, and we know that they play really well. And we saw what they could do against Buffalo. And yeah, the Jets D is only 2,800. So I think they're definitely playing a sloppy game here if the Patriots are just going to run. And I just don't. Brees Hall doesn't look like he's 100% yet, so they still have Delvin Cook and Michael Carter. But Delvin Cook looks like he's over the hill, washed up, and Minnesota made the right decision getting rid of him and not re-signing him. And then Carter, is always there with potential just to mess things up even more. So I'm really not touching his running back position. I'm really not touching Zach Wilson. If I'm going to punt a quarterback, I'm probably going to play one of the two backups that are starting over him. And then Garrett Wilson is there and is an amazing wide receiver, but Belichick always schemes to take away your number one option. So they'll probably make sure that they put the best corner and make sure he's covered and let the other ones try to beat him. And like Hardman, Cobb, Lazard are not ones that I'm scared of. Tyler Conklin, the tight end, there's really nothing here. So low total in this game. Take the defense on either side, and maybe Stevenson, Hunter Henry, possibly, but that's it. Next game, Denver Broncos and Miami Dolphins. Again, another game that's going to have weather and be messy. It's supposed to rain there, about like 50 to 60% chance. So we'll have to see if this is going to ruin the passing game at all. So on the Denver side of it, Russell Wilson has been decent. I think he's definitely an option. I don't know if he's a cash option, but he's definitely a GPP if you want to play him and stack. Javonte Williams has looked solid as a running back, 5,500, definitely in play for cash or GPPs. Judy is definitely now he's back as the number one guy, so definitely the first look. So he's the priority wide receiver here, even though Courtland Sutton I think is ahead of him on the depth chart. Judy's definitely the one to look at. And then Mims is, if you're playing a stack or something and you want to throw him in a GPP, he's 3.9. He's the burner guy. He got loose deep and scored a pretty cool touchdown last week, but I don't know if this is something that's going to happen all the time. And we talked about Troutman with Dulcich out, their tight end. He's more of a blocking tight end than a pass catching one, so I don't think he's really in play. On the Dolphins side of the ball here, and this is my third favorite stack before I saw the weather, but so we'll have to see. But Tua is always in play. Moser is definitely someone to look at in the backfield. He's having a solid season, 6K. I think that's definitely in the mid-range as a solid running back for you for cash. 5K a little bit expensive, but a good GPP play is Akane. They really get him involved in the game too, and even in the passing game, and especially having Ahmad probably out of this game, that's definitely going to open up more workload for him. And bearing the lead here is that Waddle is in, I believe, concussion protocol, and he's going to be out of this game. So that leaves Tyreek Hill alone here to go out there and have even more target shares than he normally does. But it also brings Berrios and Craycraft, who we saw in the first couple of weeks, make some catches in play. I don't know which one I like better. I see some people on Team Craycraft. I see some people on Team Berrios. Seems most of the projections have Berrios higher, but I guess it all depends on personal preference. Like you just, pick one and figure it out. But I think Smythe here at tight end has had some really nice looks and some really nice catches and some really nice usage. And I think that will go up also, especially with the weather conditions and especially with having another key wide receiver out. So at 2,900, He doesn't need to get you much here, and if he can get up to like 10 DK points, that's just outstanding. So, um, but I definitely think he could get 3x. Now Tyler Croft has gotten healthy and is back, and they re-signed him, and he's definitely a priority and can like maybe poach some stuff. But I think Smythe is definitely a safe bet, and I watched the Monday night game, and he was just out there and active, and definitely someone that at 2.9 that could definitely smash his salary. Houston and the Jacksonville Jaguars, 43.5 total here. Fourth favorite one on the slate here, even though Jacksonville's pretty favored by over a touchdown at 7.5. Houston, Stroud looks like he's healthy. He'll play. Damian Pierce has really not gotten going. Jacksonville shut him down, so I'm not looking at the running backs. But Nico Collins, love. He's definitely the number one, having a good season. Robert Woods has been solid too at 4.4. He is just getting a lot of targets, and definitely enough work for him to make value. And then Take Dell, I think, is going to be a very popular punt play here. That's also in play because Houston usually has to play from behind. They usually have to pass a lot. And these three guys are definitely the ones that you want to look at that are going to be great, cheap, mid-range fill-ins or even cheap fill-ins for your cash lineups or your GPPs. Schultz at tight end, I think he's okay. Can probably get 8 to 10 points at 3.7. But I like the wide receivers better. Jacksonville side of it, Trevor Lawrence, definitely like him here. Stack him with Ridley. Christian Kirk moves up the depth chart because Zay Jones is out. So at 5.4, definitely a wide receiver in the mid-range that should get a lot of decent volume. If you want to get cheeky a little bit, like Jamal Agnew should move up to like the third position there. But I don't see him getting 10 points. Probably Ingram picks up here, more volume. So like him at 4.8 and a kind of a mid-range tight end, probably can get you about 12 DK points there. And then running back wise, ETN is just looks so solid. Tank Bigsby is there, but he's just not coming into the role that we thought he would, eating into NTN's time. So I think you've gotten a lot of nice plays here in Jacksonville. So if you want to take Lawrence, ETN, Ridley, Kirk, and Ingram, any of however many of those you want in a stack, and then I'd probably run it back with like Collins or Woods or Dell on the other side. If you want to take the Jaguar defense too against Houston and a younger rookie quarterback, then that's fine also. Buffalo Bills and Washington Commanders, another weather game. Even though the rain should taper off before kickoff as it moves up the East Coast, it still could be very wet, and it still could be some showers, and still could be some wind. So 43 total here. Buffalo is favored by just under a touchdown. I think with the weather conditions, it definitely makes Josh Allen a GPP. I don't think I can pay up for him in cash just with how the game flow is potentially going to be with the weather. I just might be too hard to pass the ball, and they might be handing it off to like Cook more and even limiting Allen's running and upside. So, but GPP, great. Take them and then maybe stack it. So take Allen, take Diggs or Davis there as wide receiver, and then God bless you if you can figure out what tight end to take, because Kincaid is definitely the better route runner, the more explosive one, but Dawson Knox seems to be the sure-handed one that they end up throwing it to in the end zone. So I just don't know how to play them. It's so frustrating. I wish one would just establish himself as a clear-cut option, but I don't think we're going to have that. It's funny because this is the first tight end by committee in like DFS NFL we've had to like kind of worry about. Well, not necessarily. I guess we did have it back with Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, but that's probably about like 10, 15 years ago at this point. So, Buffalo's definitely, and I said James Cook, and if you want to take the Buffalo defense, a sloppy game, if you think that they can get up ahead and then just go run the ball out with Cook, that's fine. But Latavius Murray's still there. We'll just have to see how his role develops throughout the season. Washington Commanders, Sam Howell's been solid. I don't really like the weather here, but I don't really fear the Bills. I respect the Bills defense, but I don't fear them. So I think you can play him here. Uh, McLaurin and Dotson are definitely wide receivers in the mid range that definitely could get you anywhere from 10 to 12 DK points. Maybe you have the upside of getting like 14, 15. So, whether you're stacking with Howell or just taking one off, that's fine. Brian Robinson has definitely established himself as a number one back, but Gibson just still lurks there. And again, can always like pick up carries or poach a touchdown. So it's just frustrating again. And their tight end, Logan Thomas, is out. Like that guy is like the Anthony Davis of the NFL. He's always getting injured so often. And I just feel bad for him because he does have talent. He does perform well when he's on the field, but it seems like it's one thing after the other with him. So John Bates, I don't know much about him. He's the one that's filling in. I see some ownership on him potentially as a cheap tight end at 2.8 that's going to start, but I don't know how much he's going to get the ball. I think it's probably just going to be a good dose of Brian Robinson, McLaurin, and Dotson are your plays. But I do think the Commanders defense is going to be very popular. Also, just how cheap it is. And Buffalo, we know that Josh Allen can be turnover prone, throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball. So I think this game is going to be a lot lower scoring than we think with the weather. So I think they're definitely in a good position to play and save you some salary to pay up for other things. Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. So I forget what the injury is, but Bryce Young is out. Is it like a shoulder or something? What does he have going on? He is out for ankle. Okay, so he's not going to play. So at least we made that clear, not leading us on. So Andy Dalton's going to come and play. And the Seattle defense is not the Seattle defense of like 5 years ago where they were like super, super dominant. But it is in Seattle. It's the 12th man. It's going to be a little bit rainy, but more towards the end of the game. I think they'll get most of it and not be an issue. Andy Dalton is a former starting quarterback that was pretty good and played on a pretty good Cincinnati team, but then got injured and lost his job and kind of became a journeyman and now is like a backup. But he's not like a backup like Gardner Minshew. He's like a backup that I feel confidence in. So I think in a GPP, I don't think he's going to have a ton of ownership, but I like him. Especially when you pair him with Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen in this offense has got a lot of targets, and Young has missed them. Young has thrown the ball over his head, has thrown the ball to the side of him, has led him too much. I think Dalton, if he's more accurate, can get the ball easier to Thielen. And I think Thielen still has the potential to make some play-breaking plays. So I definitely like the pairing in GPP. Miles Sanders, I'm okay with too. Seattle's defense for run hasn't been great, and he's been solid to start the season. Mingo, I think, is a talented young wide receiver also that definitely has slate breaking possibility. Sharks there also still come back from injury, not super excited. And then Hayden Hurst, the tight ends there also. It might be a great safety ball. Dalton did well with tight ends when he was in Cincinnati. So definitely somebody to look at for a play. On the Seattle side of it, Geno Smith, definitely in play. You can play him in cash or GPP. Kenneth Walker, love if you can get up to him at 6'2", and kind of like the more expensive mid-range here. But Carolina has just given up so many points to running backs. He could have an amazing game. Wide receivers, DK Metcalf took a pretty big hit close to the goal line, went out, had sore ribs, came back in and finished the game, but then he's been questionable all week, so we'll have to see if he plays. Tyler Lockett, I think he caught like 1 or 2 touchdowns last week, so definitely someone to put in your stack. So probably would just ignore Metcalf if he's out there not 100%. I'd probably play Lockett in my stacks, and Najigba also is somebody to keep our eye on. It's just a matter of time before he has a decent game, and if Metcalf is out, then he's definitely someone that I'll look to play some. And then Noah Fant's banged up, so I don't think he's going to play, or maybe he is. Maybe it's Disley that's out. If Disley's still on Seattle, I don't know. I'm not super interested in the tight ends here. So for this game, I think, like I said, I'll stack Carolina in GPP, and I think in GPP also you can take Geno Smith and Lockett and Walker, and then run it back with Thielen. And even if you want the Seattle defense, that works too. Chicago Bears and Kansas City Chiefs. This game is 48.5 total, but it's pretty much all on the Chiefs side. They're favored by 12.5. Justin Fields has looked terrible. The Bears have a lot of distractions going on. The FBI was raiding their offices. Their defensive coordinator suddenly stepped down. So I don't know what's going on there, but it can't be easy to go practice, and actually you're playing the Chiefs. You're off to not a great start to the season. So Justin Fields, I don't think this is the week that he gets it right. Herbert, I drafted him a lot in my regular season. He hardly plays. If anything, if I'm playing a running back, I'll play at 4-7. Roshan Johnson, he seems to be the man there. DJ Moore hasn't clicked with Fields like I saw him doing the preseason. I thought he would do. Moody and Claypool are there. Cheap punts. And then Komet as a tight end. Again, I just really don't see a ton of upside. So I'm probably off from the Bears. I really don't see, unless I'm playing YOLO GPPs, like any real DFS goodness from that team. Kansas City on their side, I'm a little bit worried because, like, is Mahomes going to play 4 quarters? We've seen some quarterbacks just completely go off and not even come out for the 4th quarter in some of the games. We saw it on Thursday night. We've seen it with Dallas with Dak. So, how much is Mahomes going to do here, and who's he going to throw it to? Kelsey just hasn't been the same coming back from the injury. I don't think he's 100% yet. And then Tony has been injured. I don't know if he'll be in. Sky Moore, I think, has moved up to the depth chart and has become the number 1 wide receiver. He caught a touchdown pass last week. Valdez Scantling still there. Also, Rice was good in the first game. I don't know, like, where he throws it to or whatever. I just don't think I can pay up for Mahomes in a blowout game where I might not get the full. And I just don't know, like, where he's going with the ball or what the plan is. Pacheco's banged up also. He's got a hamstring issue, but it didn't have a hamstring pull. It looks like it's a contusion and a bruise in the hamstring, so he might play. If he doesn't play, then Clyde Edward-Helaire or Jarrett McKinnon for some gadget plays are definitely potentially in play also. So I like the Chiefs offense here, but it's just such a mess. I don't know what direction to go with it, that I'm probably going to fade it and not have many shares at all. And then the final game we have on the slate is Dallas and Arizona Cardinals. You can play Prescott, but again, I think this is another one where they could potentially get up and really Dak not play the full game. But CeeDee Lamb, I think, is definitely in play. Definitely get a lot of targets. Pollard, I love. If you're paying up for a running back, I think he's so worth it because he goes out there at the end of the game and just, like, pounds the ball and runs the clock out. Dallas defense, I love here. If you have the money to pay up for it, also pair them and Pollard. Ferguson's been a solid tight end. Cooks and Gallup, I'm not super excited about. And Cooks, I think, is starting to get healthier. Maybe he'll carve his way, but I think CeeDee Lamb is definitely the number 1 target here. So, yeah, again, hopefully it's not too much of a blowout. Dobbs on the other side, not super excited about. I mean, they had a great game against the Giants, but it seems like who hasn't so far this season. And Connor is always solid. But if I'm paying up, I'd probably in the 6K range, Like I said, I really like Walker in the matchup. He's only $100 less. I'd rather take him. And then for wide receivers, like again, Brown is a super talented guy, but he's got like he was on my Ravens and just dropped the ball a lot. And Zach Ertz, I think, is solid as a tight end. I think he can get you 10 DK points right there. So at 3.5, that's definitely fair price for that. So but then I get really like the Dallas defense. So just looking at the position players, like I said, Mahomes, Jackson, and Allen are all up there, but I really don't like any of them besides Jackson. Like the weather's gonna be a factor, blowout factor for Mahomes. Medium range, I absolutely love. Herbert and Lawrence, I think, are the best cash plays here. Tua is in consideration also, but again, it might be a little bit of weather there. If you're going cheap, if you want to take a shot on Minshew, that's fine. I prefer Andy Dalton. Kirk Cousins is in that range. I think he'll be the most popular one. And then Geno Smith also in play. And then I'm fading Dobbs, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones. And then injury watch, like I said, Richardson and Young are out, and Stroud is back, but I'm not playing him. Running back, pay up. Pollard's my favorite. Robinson from Atlanta would be second. NTN and Stevenson are also in play. Medium range Gibbs, but then again, don't think that he's going to be like the every down back here. Don't be surprised if it still is like a split. It might be like 60-40 in Gibbs' favor, but still, I don't think it's going to be like something like 80-20. Mozart's been solid. His backup is gone, but the other guy could come in and get involved with the offense a little bit, but that's not going to hurt him a ton. Walker 2 has probably the best matchup against a defense here, and then Sanders for Carolina is solid also. Cheap ones, Ford's probably going to be the chalk, but I hate the matchup against Tennessee. Moss I really like. Miller I'm going to take some shots on, who's a little bit cheaper than Ford, but in a better matchup. And then Kelly, I think it's probably the chalk in this range here. I'm fading Henry. I'm fading Cook from Buffalo. I just haven't seen enough there, but maybe, with the game script, if it's going to be a rainy day, that it might be there. I'm not touching the Jets situation. I'm not touching the Green Bay situation. As we talked about, Eckler's out, Hill's out, and Williams are out. Pacheco, Jones, and Ahmad are questionable, but I think out of all those, only Pacheco plays, and Montgomery's questionable or doubtful, and I doubt he plays. Wide receiver Jefferson, Allen, Hill, and Diggs are the head of the class there. Everybody's probably going to play Jefferson and Allen just with that high total there. Lamb's in a great spot. Amon Brown's in a great spot. Olave and Ridley, and Nico Collins. Mike Williams will probably, if he can't get to Allen, will be super popular also. Amari Cooper, if he's healthy, is in a great spot against the Tennessee funnel defense. They want you to pass, and he's definitely the one that should get open. And then Thomas, just on New Orleans, has just continued to get volume, and it's a good situation. Reynolds, if he's in for Detroit, that's fine. Kirk should pick up more with Zay Jones out. Dell on this Houston team is also good, and Thielen has just been super solid at his price point. I know he's got a backup quarterback, but I think that's actually a better thing because I think the quarterback is more accurate. Tight ends, Kels, blowout, just hasn't been himself here, so not super excited about him. But he's definitely up in the high range, and people will play him. But I think Andrews in this rain game, just being a safety valve for Lamar, and Hawkinson in that high-scoring shootout are definitely the plays. Ingram, I really like also. Again, somebody to be there to pick up for an injury on a team as another option. Laporta's been solid for Detroit, and Njoku, he's in the mid-range. Don't love him, but if maybe he picks up the production for Chubb. Ertz is in Schultz, and if you can figure out the Buffalo tight end are in your cheap range here, and then if you want to go super cheap, Okonkwo, like he let us down last week. Smythe, I think, is in a smash position in Miami with Waddle being out, and Musgrave and Green Bay if Watson is still out there also. So injury watch, like you said, they really don't matter. Defenses, the best buys are going to be the Bills and the Jets, point per dollar probably. If you want to pay up, Dallas and Kansas City should dominate in their matchups. If you want to punt, Indy, We have seen Lamar turn the ball over, and it's just going to be a sloppy game. And Washington, same thing, playing against a quarterback that's turnover prone. Seattle and Arizona are in play. I'd avoid Chicago and Houston. And there's the stacks that I've talked about, who I like. So LA and Minnesota is definitely a favorite one. Both QBs are in play, and Kelly. Then Jefferson, Allen, or Williams to run it back with his wide receiver. Goff, St. Brown, and Robinson for that stack. Tua, Hill, and Judy for the Denver Miami stack. Lawrence, Ridley, and Collins Riddell running back from Houston for the Houston Jacksonville stack. And then finally, New Orleans, Green Bay. Give me Carr, give me Olave or Thomas, whichever one you want to pick, the deep threat or the guy that seems to be getting the volume. And then Musgrave or Reed are a cheap way to run it back. So let's look at the builds and get you on your way for your weekend. And they're same on DK and FanDuel. I usually don't do this, but it really worked out well this week, except for like defense. So Cousins or Herbert, whichever we get in. Kelly at my running back. You decide if you're gonna go Ford or Moss or Miller or pay up for a running back there. Jefferson, if you need more salary, you're gonna go Williams. If you got the salary, you're gonna take Allen. Wide receiver, if you took Allen, you might not have, and Herbert, you might not have the salary, so you might need to take Smythe as your tight end and forego Hawkinson. But if you can get Hawkinson in as the second piece of Minnesota receiving core in your line, then definitely go for it. And then I like the Washington Commanders defense. Same thing at FanDuel, but I'm able to get the New England defense in there, and I think at my RB two spot, I'm going to try to get Stevenson to correlate that. For GPP, I know there's a lot of ways to go, and like the Denver game, playing Tua is a great play to go GPP. Like Carr or Lawrence, there's so many ones, but give me Dalton because he's so cheap. And he's, like I say, he's a veteran. And then Pollard in the Dallas defense, I'm going to pay up for the best running back, the best defense there, and pair them. Walker 3, I'm going to run it back the Carolina game with Lockett and Walker 3, and then give me Adam Thielen to pair with Dalton. He's very cheap. He's been a sure-handed wide receiver. He can break some plays still, and I think Dalton's going to be more accurate to get him the ball. Same thing for FanDuel. So that's what I got for you. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat below. Hit me up at MegRuler31 on Twitter/X. If you have any suggestions for the video, definitely like to hear them. Hopefully we're helping you out. And if you want to help us back, if you've helped by watching this far into the video, but if you want to help me more, like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. So thanks for watching. I'm MegRuler31. Check out that I will try to have a Monday Showdown video up and a Thursday one. Those have been going well also. Just talking out the slates, just looking at some different position players to be able to play to try to find a core for us and to try to fill in your lineup. So appreciate you watching. Hope you have a great weekend. Stay dry, East Coast, and I'll see you next time.